When an animal loves us, its affection is pure, loyal, and unconditional. But what happens when they leave this world? Is it truly the end? Or is there something beyond, something waiting for us after life? Today you will discover a surprising truth, something that few know, and that may forever change the way you see the connection between humans and animals. The Bible brings answers that you may have never imagined, and the story you will hear today might transform your perspective on life and eternity. Before we begin, I want to know where you're watching from. Write in the comments so we can feel that connection between us, no matter the distance. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and get ready, because what you're about to discover might change forever the way you see those you love. My name is Isaac. I'm 52 years old, and I live in Asheville, North Carolina. My life took a devastating turn 3 years ago when my wife, Helena, passed away suddenly. An aggressive cancer was discovered, and in just a few months, she was taken from me with no time for goodbyes, hopes, or any illusion that things might get better. My home, once full of life, became a quiet and purposeless place. I started living on autopilot, waking up, doing the bare minimum, and spending the day staring at the television without actually watching anything. I only left to go to the store, but every trip felt like a senseless obligation. I had already lost my mother to the same disease years before, and at that time, it took me a long time to recover. But this time, something inside me told me there was no possible recovery. Helena wasn't just my wife, she was my foundation, my compass, my best friend. With her departure, everything lost its color. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. It was a cold afternoon, and I was coming back from the market carrying bags, surrounded by dark thoughts, when I noticed a cardboard box abandoned near an alley. Normally, I would have ignored it, but a faint and almost imperceptible sound made me stop. A whimper. I approached, and when I opened the box, I found a puppy, thin, shaking from the cold, its eyes dull from exhaustion and hunger. I looked around, expecting to see someone nearby, but the alley was empty. Someone had left it there, with no chance of survival. I had never been particularly attached to animals. I had never had a dog, never saw myself as someone who would bring one into my house. But in that moment, something inside me refused to turn my back. I hesitantly picked up the puppy, wrapped it in my coat, and took it home, thinking I would help it recover and then take it to a shelter. At least. That was the initial plan. The puppy was far from the calm companion I had imagined. It was energetic, running around the house, knocking over objects, and turning every corner into complete chaos. Every attempt to teach it, something ended in frustration. I already felt suffocated by grief, and now, on top of that, my house was a mess. Instead of silence and solitude, I now dealt with scratched furniture, destroyed shoes, and constant barking. It felt more like a problem than a solution. But amid this turmoil, something curious began to happen. There was something in that puppy's eyes, a certain intensity, persistence, as if it were trying to tell me something without words, as if it was there for a greater reason, a purpose I still didn't understand. And without realizing it, I started looking forward to its presence. Days went by, and as the puppy regained strength, something inside me also began to change. Every morning it greeted me with contagious energy, as if reminding me that life was still happening around me. Its eyes, once dull, now sparkled. And, strangely, mine began to reflect something different. The weight of loss was still there, but for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel completely empty. Like a reflection of my own journey, that little being was also rebuilding itself. That's when I realized it needed a name. But it couldn't be just any name. It had to have special meaning. I decided to call it Theo, because to me, it was more than a dog. It was a gift, a symbol of a new beginning. For a while, everything seemed to be finally falling into place. Theo brought small moments of joy back into my life. I went out more, took walks with him, and little by little, I began to feel that there was still space for something beyond pain. But then, the unexpected happened. It was a sunny afternoon. The sky was clear, and a light breeze made the day perfect for a walk. We were walking side by side on the sidewalk, enjoying the moment, not imagining that in a few seconds, everything would change drastically. As we reached a crosswalk, we stopped. A car slowed down and yielded. I looked around, and with Theo a little ahead of me, we began to cross. Suddenly, a deafening noise. Two cars appeared at high speed, overtaking the stopped vehicle. They were racing, completely ignoring what was ahead. Everything happened too fast. The sound of engines, the impact, the sensation of being pulled back. Theo was hit. The leash broke, and I was thrown aside. The world spun around me before everything faded to darkness. I found myself floating in the darkness. No pain, no sound, just absolute emptiness. There was no fear, just the strange sensation of being suspended between two worlds. Then gradually a warm and soft light began to form around me. But this light wasn't coming from outside. It seemed to emerge from within me. It was a comforting glow, like a gentle fire warming the soul without burning. It was at that moment that I saw him. Before me, surrounded by indescribable peace, stood a majestic, radiant figure emanating pure and unwavering love. His eyes were deep, full of compassion, and his mere presence made all fear disappear. It was Jesus. He looked at me tenderly and, in a calm and reassuring tone, said my name. "Daniel, do not fear. You are here for a greater purpose than you can imagine." At that moment, all pain, all suffering, and all doubt dissipated. It was as if my heart, once crushed by grief, was being restored by something much greater than I could comprehend. Jesus' words pierced my soul in a way I had never felt before. His gaze was intense, but at the same time, it conveyed infinite peace. "There is something you need to know, Daniel. Something about you and about Theo." My heart raced. Theo! All I could think about was him. Where was he? What had happened? Jesus took a step forward and continued. "The day you found Theo in that box, it was no accident. He was sent to you." A chill ran down my spine. The images of that day rushed to my mind. The cardboard box, the faint whimper, those eyes that seemed to have given up on everything. "You were both wounded in the same way," said Jesus. "You saved him, but he also saved you." I felt a lump in my throat. It was true. All that time I believed I had rescued Theo, but in reality, he had also rescued me. Jesus looked at me for a moment before asking, "Daniel, have you ever stopped to think that Theo always understood your pain?" Jesus' words echoed inside me. Theo understood my pain. How was that possible? I remembered all the times I sat on the couch, staring into nothing, lost in sadness, and Theo simply came over, laid his head in my lap, and stayed there, silently, just being present. All the nights I cried, and he was by my side, needing no words to comfort me. It was true. He knew. Jesus smiled with compassion. "The bond you created is deeper than you know." It wasn't just friendship between a man and a dog. It was a meeting of two wounded souls, united by something much greater than this world. I felt tears streaming down my face. All this time, I had seen Theo only as a dog that entered my life by chance. But there was no chance. There was a purpose. Animals are not just companions, Daniel. They are gifts from God. When a human heart is broken, God often sends one to bring healing and hope. Then I finally understood. Theo was not with me by luck. He was sent. My heart filled with emotion. It all made sense now. Theo hadn't just been an accident. He had been an answer to my silent prayers, to my pain, to my loneliness. But one question still weighed on my soul. "And now, Lord?" My voice trembled. "Theo, Has he gone? Will I never see him again? Jesus looked at me tenderly and said, "Nothing that is truly loved is lost." A shiver ran down my body. He then continued, "It is written that all creation awaits the day of redemption. Not just men, but everything that was created with love." In that moment, an extraordinary vision appeared before me. I saw a place of indescribable beauty, crystal clear rivers, golden fields, a sky bluer than any I had ever seen on earth. Animals ran free, without fear, without pain. And then I saw him. There was Theo, strong, healthy, vibrant, as if he had never suffered. His eyes shone when he saw me, and he ran toward me. My heart almost stopped. He was waiting for me. Tears fell from my face. Theo was there before me, radiant and full of life. There was no pain, no suffering, only joy, only peace. I looked at Jesus, and he nodded with a serene smile. True love is never wasted, Daniel. When everything is restored, when pain and death are erased, every bond of love that ever existed will remain. My heart overflowed with emotion. This meant that the animals who truly loved us, who were part of our journey, would be there, waiting for us. So, one day, I will see him again? I asked, still trying to absorb everything. Jesus smiled. Yes, and when that day comes, nothing will be able to separate you. The light around me began to shine brighter. I felt as though I was being pulled back into my body. But before everything disappeared, Jesus said one last thing. Now go back and tell the world. Many have forgotten the value of these creatures. Remind them that every life matters. Then the light dissipated, and I woke up. I woke up feeling an overwhelming wave of pain and confusion. My body was injured, and reality hit me like a blow. The accident had been real. But then, I looked around and saw something that made my heart stop for a moment. Theo was still alive, injured, weak, but fighting to stay there. His eyes, even tired, still shone with the same strength as always. Tears rolled down my face. God had given me a second chance. The veterinarians weren't optimistic. Theo had suffered serious injuries, and his recovery would be long and uncertain. But I knew, deep in my heart, that he was a warrior. The following weeks were a test of faith. Every little progress Theo made was a victory, and I was there for every moment, just as he had always been for me. And then, one day, he stood up on his own. It was at that moment that I realized our bond was stronger than any pain, any tragedy. We had faced the worst together, and we were still here. Months passed, and Theo regained his strength. He was never exactly the same. He carried the marks of what had happened, but his essence was still there, strong, loyal, unshakable. For years, we lived side by side, sharing moments that became precious. But time passes for everyone. One day I noticed Theo was more tired than usual. His step was slower, his gaze a little heavier. And then, the day I feared arrived. We went out to the backyard as we did every morning. Theo looked at me with a different shine in his eyes, as if he knew this was our last moment together. He took a few steps, wagged his tail with one last effort, and when I knelt by his side, he simply rested his head in my hands. "I'm here, friend," I whispered, feeling the tears fall. And then, he was gone. I stayed there, kneeling beside him, unable to hold back the tears. The pain was overwhelming. Even knowing this day would come, I wasn't ready to say goodbye. Theo wasn't just a dog. He was my companion, my support, my ray of light in the darkest moments. He saved me when I needed it most, and now the house felt empty again. But amid the sadness, I remembered Jesus' words, "Nothing that is truly loved is lost." I knew deep in my soul that this wasn't the last time I would see Theo, that one day when my own journey ended, he would be there, waiting for me. And this time, it would be forever. After everything I lived through, I couldn't stay silent anymore. This message wasn't just for me. It was for all those who have loved an animal and felt the pain of its departure. Animals are not just companions. They're not here by chance. They are gifts from God, sent to comfort us, teach us about true love, and often rescue us when we are on the edge of the abyss. Unfortunately, the world has forgotten the value of these creatures. Many suffer abandonment, mistreatment, and are seen only as disposable objects. But every life has value. If there is an animal in your life that loves you, that waits for you when you come home, that is always by your side, know that this is not by chance. This love is a reflection of God's own love. And if you haven't found one yet, maybe one is waiting for you. Now I understand. When I thought I had rescued Theo, in reality, he was the one who rescued me. God knew exactly what I needed and sent a loyal friend to be by my side, and I know many others have lived something similar. If you've ever had an animal who was part of your life in a special way, who helped you through difficult times, who was by your side when no one else was, know that this bond does not fade. In God's kingdom, true love is eternal. Animals teach us about unconditional love, loyalty, and silent presence, something that often we humans forget. They don't care about our mistakes, our flaws, or our bad days. They are just there, ready to love us, expecting nothing in return. And perhaps this is what God wants to remind us through them, that true love doesn't require words, doesn't seek rewards, doesn't have selfishness. So, if there is an animal by your side today, look at it more closely. It might be a gift you haven't noticed yet. And if you've had to say goodbye to a four-legged friend, comfort your heart. The love you shared never disappeared. If this story touched your heart, leave an amen in the comments and tell me where you are watching from. Let's spread this message so that more people understand the importance and value of animals in our lives. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share this video. Someone might need to hear this message today. May God bless you, and I hope to see you again here on the channel.